"Tell me the truth," her father said, setting down his fork. "Not the polite answer. What do you actually like about my daughter?" I should have given the safe version. She's smart. She's driven. She's easy to be around. That was the kind of answer a fake boyfriend was supposed to give over baked pasta and salad while candles burned low on a table that wasn't his. Instead, I looked across the table at Isabel Morno and forgot every line we had practiced. She had warned me at the door, "Keep it simple. Don't overdo it. My parents notice everything." Now her mother was smiling at me. Her father was waiting. Isabel sat very still, one hand around her water glass, her face calm in that careful way people get when they are bracing for impact. I knew I was supposed to help her through one dinner, make her parents relax and leave. But the truth rose up before common sense could stop it. What did I like about her? Too much, maybe. 48 hours earlier, I was standing in the break room at Meridian Point trying to choose between bad coffee and worse coffee when Isabel asked me to be her boyfriend for one weekend. At work, she was the project lead people straightened up for. Calm voice. Clean spreadsheets. Deadlines that never slipped when she was running a launch. I was a back-end developer who mostly kept my head down, wrote my code, and went home. We had worked in the same building for almost 3 years, but good morning was about as personal as things ever got. Also, she was not my boss. That mattered. She handled schedules across teams, not my reviews, not my pay, not my future. If she had been my manager, I would have said no before she finished the question. "I need a favor," she said. "A strange one." She looked tired in a way I had never seen on her before. Not messy, not dramatic, just worn thin around the edges. I gave a small laugh. "That sounds promising." She did not laugh back. "My parents are coming from Portland on Saturday," she said. "I told them I'm seeing someone I'm not. Now they want to meet him." She pressed her lips together like she hated every word coming out of her mouth. "I panicked," she said. "They've been pushing ever since my divorce. Every call turns into concern, then advice, then introductions to men I do not want to meet. I wanted one quiet month. So I lied. And now you need a body." Her mouth twitched. That is a terrible way to put it, but yes. I should have said no. Any smart man would have. But smart had not been doing great for me that week. The night before, I had gone out with a woman named Chloe who looked perfect in her photos and even better in person. By the end of one coffee, she had laughed at hiking, called my favorite books childish, and looked at me like I was a decent guy she would never choose on purpose. I had gone home feeling like somebody had taken a dull knife to every quiet part of me and called it honesty. So when Isabel stood there asking for help, part of me heard something ugly inside my own head. See, someone wants you when there is a use for you. I hated that thought. I hated it enough to ignore it. "Why me?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Because you're steady, because you're discreet, because you listen more than you talk, and because I trust you not to turn this into entertainment for the office." That landed harder than it should have. "One dinner," she said. "Saturday night, you come over, we eat. We get through 3 hours. Monday, everything goes back to normal." There was something in her face then I recognized because I had worn it myself plenty of times. The look of someone asking for help in a language that hurts their pride. So I said yes. After work, we met at a cafe near Westlake to build our lie. We picked a fake first date, a fake story, fake little habits we would know about each other. She had notes open on her phone like she was preparing for a meeting. "We met at the holiday party," she said. "You spilled wine on my sleeve." "I don't even drink red wine." "You do in this version." I laughed. "This version of me sounds reckless." "This version of you apologizes well." That one caught me off guard. About halfway through, she put her phone down. "There should be rules," she said. I nodded. "Good." "No blurred lines," she said. "No office performance on Monday. No rumors. If my parents want photos, we say we're private. If anything feels off, either of us can stop it." Agreed. Agreed. "And I may need to hold your hand, or sit close, only if you're comfortable." I should have asked that first. The fact that she asked at all made it easier to breathe. I'm okay with that, I said. As long as we call it in the moment, no surprises. Fair. Once that was settled, something shifted. Not romance, not then, just ease. She told me her parents were kind but relentless. They loved her, which was part of the problem. My ex liked plans, she said, stirring coffee she had already forgotten to drink. 5-year plans, 10-year plans, cities, promotions, timing. He treated marriage like a ladder. When I stopped climbing the same one, that was the end. She said it calmly, but calm is not the same as unhurt. At the door, she looked at me and said, "You can still back out." I should have taken that chance. Instead, I said, "I'll be there." Saturday came fast. I stood outside her apartment building with a bottle of wine, wishing I knew why my hands were sweating. This was not a date. It was a favor, that was all. When she opened the door, my first stupid thought was that I had never seen her look soft before. At work, Isabel was all clean lines and sharp focus. Tonight, her dark hair was down around her shoulders, and the simple blue dress she wore made her look less guarded somehow. "Hey," she said, smiling like she was trying not to look nervous. "Hey." I handed her the bottle, peace offering. She looked at it and laughed under her breath. "For them or for us?" "I haven't decided." That was when the buzzer sounded. Her smile vanished. She stepped closer and touched my wrist, light and brief. "Last chance," she said. I could hear voices downstairs. Her parents were here. I looked at her hand, then at her face. And for one strange second, I had the feeling that the real danger tonight was not getting caught in a lie. It was telling one too well. Her parents came in carrying too much food for people who had supposedly kept it simple. Her mother, Sophia, held a bakery box against her chest like she did not trust anyone else with it. Her father, Daniel, had a bottle of sparkling water in one hand and the kind of steady look that made me feel inspected before we had even shaken hands. "You must be Adrian," Sophia said. That was my fake name in her family story. We had decided using my real one was too risky in case something slipped at work. I hated it the second she said it. "Nice to meet you," I said. Daniel shook my hand once, firm and short. "We've heard about you." That was not a warm sentence. It was a measured one. Isabel stepped in smoothly before I could overthink it. "Come in before the food gets cold." Her apartment looked exactly like I expected and nothing like I expected at the same time. It was clean without feeling empty. Nice furniture, soft light, real art on the walls, not the cheap framed prints I had in my place. But there were little signs of her actual life too. A camera on the shelf, a cookbook face down on the counter, a blanket folded wrong on the arm of the couch like she had used it that morning and fixed it fast. That made me feel better for some reason. Dinner started with easy questions. Where did I grow up? Outside Tacoma. How long had I been in Seattle? Almost 7 years. Did I like my work? Most days. Those answers were close enough to the truth that I did not have to act too hard. Then came the test. "So," Sophia said, smiling as she passed the salad, "tell us how this happened. Isabel always skips the good parts." We had practiced this. Holiday party, red wine, dry cleaning, coffee a week later, I told it clean. Isabel joined in at the right places. Once or twice we even laughed at the same moment and the sound of it felt natural enough that I forgot it was supposed to be fake. Daniel watched all of it, not hostile, just careful. When Sophia got up to bring more bread from the kitchen, Daniel turned to me. "You hike," he said. I blinked. "Yeah." He nodded once. "My daughter said you like quiet." That was not in the script. Isabel had told them almost nothing real about me on purpose. "I do," I said. "She likes quiet too," he said, "more than she admits." Across the table, Isabel gave him a look. "Dad." "What?" he said. "It is true." Sophia came back before that could turn into something worse. Dinner moved on. Portland traffic, work stories, a funny disaster involving a catered event and the wrong dessert trays. I said less than usual and listened more, which seemed to relax Sophia and make Daniel study me even harder. At one point, Isabel stood to get another dish from the kitchen and Daniel followed to help. The second they were gone, Sophia leaned toward me. "She seems lighter," she said softly. I did not know how to answer that. "She has been through a lot," Sophia said. People act like divorce is one sharp pain and then it is over. It is not. She said it gently, but there was an edge in it. Maybe for her daughter, maybe for herself. I know, I said. No, she said, not unkindly. You know your part, I mean the part before you. That shut me up fast. Then she smiled like she regretted saying too much. Eat, before Daniel brings back enough food for a wedding. When Isabel and her father returned, dinner found its rhythm again. And then, almost at the end, Daniel asked the question from the line I could not stop replaying. Tell me the truth, not the polite answer. What do you actually like about my daughter? The room went quiet. I felt Isabel look at me and I knew what she wanted: safe, short, clean. Instead, I looked at her and saw things I had not planned to see so clearly. The way she noticed when somebody else needed the easier chair. The way she asked for consent even in a fake relationship. The way she held herself together so well that people probably forgot it cost her something. And because I am apparently an idiot, I told the truth. She makes things feel steady, I said. Not boring, steady. That's rare. Nobody moved. I kept going because I had already failed the safe version. She pays attention, real attention. Most people wait for their turn to talk. She listens. And she's stronger than she lets people see, but she's not hard. There's a difference. Sophia's expression changed first. Something softened. Daniel did not soften. He just leaned back and kept watching me. Beside me, Isabel had gone very still. I cleared my throat. That probably sounds like too much for pasta. Sophia laughed, quiet and relieved. Daniel gave the smallest smile of the night. It is honest, he said. The rest of dinner passed easier after that, but not easier for me. I had broken the script. Even when conversation turned to harmless things, I could feel Isabel beside me, calm on the outside, unreadable underneath. After coffee, Sophia asked if we wanted dessert plates. I'll help, I said quickly, mostly to get out of my chair. In the kitchen, Isabel set down 2 plates harder than she meant to. You went off script, she said. I looked at her. I know. Her voice stayed low. My father notices things. He will spend all night thinking about why that answer sounded real. I had no defense for that. I'm sorry. She let out a breath through her nose, not quite angry, not quite calm. You didn't do anything wrong, she said. That's the problem. That hit me square in the chest. For a second, neither of us moved. We were close enough that I could smell basil on her hands. Then she took the plates and stepped back like she had remembered herself. Let's go before they start wondering. When her parents finally left, Sophia hugged her too long. Daniel shook my hand again, but this time he held it for a second extra. Take care of each other, he said. That was a strange thing to say to a man he was supposed to have met for the first time that night. The apartment turned quiet the second the door closed. I helped gather glasses because I did not know where else to put my hands. Isabel stacked plates at the sink without looking at me. That was intense, I said. Yes. I'm sorry about the answer. She dried 1 plate, then set the towel down and faced me. You told the truth, she said. I asked you here to lie to them, and somehow you were the only honest person at the table. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. It does to me. Something in her face had changed. She was not upset the way I first thought. She was unsettled, worse maybe, by me, by herself, by whatever had happened when I answered. She folded her arms, then dropped them again. My mother texted me while you were putting on your coat. What did she say? Isabel looked straight at me. She said, I don't think he's pretending. I forgot how to breathe for a second, and I asked, and I didn't know what to tell her. I stared at her. The room felt smaller than it had all night. She said that. I asked. Isabel nodded once, right before they got in the elevator. And you didn't answer? No. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt exposed, like somebody had opened a door I had spent years keeping shut. I looked down at the dish towel in my hands. For what it's worth, I wasn't trying to make things harder. I know, her voice softened. That's what makes it hard. That would have been a good moment to say something clear and smart. Something like, "We did the favor, it's over. See you Monday." Instead, I said, "I meant what I said." What? She did not move, not closer, not away, just still. The city lights from her windows threw a faint shine across the floor between us. I could hear the low hum of her refrigerator, the traffic far below, my own pulse acting like it had forgotten how normal people behave. "You don't have to say anything back," I added. "I'm not asking for anything, I just don't want you thinking I was performing." Her mouth parted a little, then closed again. Finally she said, "That may be worse." I let out a breath that felt almost like a laugh. Good worse or bad worse? I honestly don't know. That was the most honest answer she could have given, and somehow it hurt more than a clean no. She leaned one hand against the counter. "I asked you because you felt safe. That was true. But somewhere in the middle of tonight, I stopped knowing where the act ended." I swallowed, same. Her eyes lifted to mine. There was no panic in them, no pity either, just a kind of careful fear. "That is exactly why I need you to go home," she said. The words landed flat and hard, not cruel, not cold, just final enough to make me step back. "Right," I said. "Of course." She took in a breath like she wanted to say something else, but I saved us both. "We said no blurred lines," I said. "We should keep that." For the first time all night she looked almost angry, not at me, at the sentence itself. "Yes," she said quietly, "we should." I grabbed my jacket from the chair. At the door I turned back once. She was still by the sink, one hand resting against the counter, shoulders straight in that way people hold themselves when they are trying not to ask someone to stay. "Good night, Isabel." "Good night." I left before I could ruin it further. The walk home felt longer than it was. Seattle was damp and cold in that familiar way that gets into your sleeves and stays there. I kept replaying the kitchen over and over, her face, her pause, the way she said safe like it was both a comfort and a warning. By the time I got home, my cat Jasper was waiting by the door, already annoyed with me for being late. He wound around my legs while I stood there with my keys still in my hand. "Yeah," I told him. "I know." He blinked like I was the one making things complicated. "I slept badly. Not because I thought I had a chance with her and lost it. That would have been cleaner. What got under my skin was the fact that something real had happened and neither of us had known what to do with it. Monday was worse. At work, Isabel was flawless, not warm, not cold, just precise. In the morning status meeting, she asked me for an update on an API issue with the same calm tone she would have used with any other developer in the room. No extra glance, no private meaning, no crack in the surface. If Saturday had never happened, Monday was exactly what it would have looked like. I hated how much that bothered me. At lunch, Ben from Product dropped into the chair across from me and started complaining about client revisions. I nodded at the right moments, but I barely heard him. Across the cafeteria, Isabel was talking to two designers with a tablet in her hand. She smiled once at something one of them said, and the sight of it irritated me more than it should have. Ben followed my eyes. "You okay?" "Fine." That looked like a lie. "I'm tired." He accepted that because most people do when you say it flat enough. The week dragged. We kept everything clean, professional, distant, exactly as agreed. By Thursday, I was angry at myself for agreeing. Not because she had done anything wrong. She had not. She was protecting the same thing I was supposed to be protecting. Our work. Our dignity. The simple fact that adults do not get to act on every feeling just because it shows up. But there was a difference between ethical and easy, and I was getting tired of pretending there was. Late Thursday afternoon, I was still at my desk fixing a bug that should have been simple when my phone buzzed. Isabel. For one stupid second, my whole body reacted before my mind did. The message was short. "Can we talk somewhere outside work?" I stared at it so long my screen dimmed. Then I typed back, "Yes." She sent an address. A small coffee shop near the waterfront. 7 o'clock. I got there first and chose a table near the back where nobody from the office was likely to wander in. The place smelled like espresso and wet coats. I had almost talked myself into leaving by the time she walked through the door. She wore jeans, a dark sweater, and no work face. That was the first thing I thought. The second thing I thought was that she looked as tired as she had in the break room the day she asked for my help. She sat down across from me and wrapped both hands around her cup without drinking. "I owe you an apology," she said. I frowned. "For what?" "For making you stand in the kitchen with something real, and then acting like you had done something wrong." I said nothing. She looked down. "I've been angry all week." "At me?" "At myself." She gave a short, humorless laugh, which is less fun than it sounds. That pulled a small smile out of me before I could stop it. She went on. "You were honest. I asked for honesty when my father pushed. Then when you gave it, I panicked because I recognized it." The room around us felt loud and far away. I kept my voice even. "Recognized what?" She lifted her eyes to mine. "That I've been noticing you for longer than I admitted to myself." I did not answer right away because I did not trust my face. She filled the silence. Not in some reckless way, not while married, not in a way that crossed lines, just. She looked for the word. Quietly. "You remember people, you make space. You are kinder than you know. And after my divorce, kind men made me nervous because I stopped trusting my own judgment." That did something sharp and strange to my chest. "So you picked me because I was safe," I said. "Yes." It came out fast enough to sting. Then she added, "And because I liked you," which was the part I did not want to inspect too closely. That was worse in the best possible way. I leaned back in my chair. "You could have led with that." "No, I could not have," she said, and for the first time that night there was real heat in her voice. "Because I did not know if it was fair. I did not know if I wanted you or the feeling of being with someone who would not hurt me." There it was, the thing I had been afraid of without saying out loud. I looked at the table between us. "I've been worried about that too." Her face changed. "About me?" "About being the safe option," I said. "The recovery choice. The man who looks good after somebody else made a mess." She held my gaze. "And do you think that's what you are?" I let out a breath. "I think I don't want to be chosen like medicine." Something in her expression broke open at that. "Good," she said softly, "because I don't want to use you like that." Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then she said, "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? Not as repayment, not as a rehearsal, just dinner, real names, real answers. And if either of us feels this is leaning on the wrong thing, we stop." I looked at her for a long second. No script, no pretending, no convenient lie, just risk. "Yes," I said. She nodded once, but the relief on her face was bigger than the movement. "Okay." I should have felt calm after that. Instead, as she reached for her cup, I had one clear thought I could not shake. A fake relationship had been easy. Tomorrow would be the first honest thing between us, and honest things could still fall apart. The next night, I got to the restaurant 5 minutes early and still felt late. It was a small place near the water, not fancy, just warm and noisy enough that nobody would pay attention to us. I had picked it because it felt normal, real. No candles on every table. No soft music trying to turn two people into a story before they were ready. When Isabel walked in, she spotted me right away and smiled. Not the careful smile from work, not the polite one from dinner with her parents, a real one, small, tired, and a little nervous. "Hi," she said as she sat down. "Hi." For a second, we both just looked at each other like we were waiting for somebody else to explain what happened next. Then she said, "I'm glad I don't have to call you Adrian tonight." I laughed before I could stop myself. I hated Adrian. She nodded. "My mother said it 3 times, and every time I wanted to apologize to you." That broke the tension enough for both of us to breathe. We ordered pasta and a bottle of red wine, which made her raise one eyebrow. "You do drink red wine?" "Only in high-stakes situations." "So this is one?" "Yes." That made her look down, smiling into her menu. At first the conversation stayed on easy ground. Work without being too much about work. A ridiculous client request. The fact that neither of us understood why office kitchens always smelled faintly like burned popcorn. But even when we were skimming the surface, it felt different from the fake dinner. There was no script holding us up now. That made every silence feel honest too. When the food came, she set down her fork and looked at me. "There's something I should say before this gets easier," she said. I waited. "I don't want this to turn into something hidden and messy at work," she said. "If this becomes anything, I want it to be clean, slow, private, yes, but not secret in a way that makes either of us smaller." I nodded right away, same. And if it starts feeling like old damage pretending to be new feelings, I need us to be able to say that. That too. She let out a breath. "Okay, good." I looked at her. "You came ready for a contract." "I like clear terms." I noticed. That got another small smile. Then she surprised me. "Tell me about the woman from the coffee date," she said. I blinked. "What woman?" "The one from the night before I asked for your help." I stared at her. "How do you know there was a woman?" Her expression barely changed. "You looked like someone had just insulted your whole personality." I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "Pretty close," I said, so I told her. Not every detail, just enough. That I had gone out trying to be open. That Chloe had been pretty and quick and bright. That somewhere between mocking my weekends and making fun of the books I loved, she had managed to make me feel 12 years old for liking the wrong things. "I know it sounds small," I said. "It does." I looked down at my plate. It shouldn't have gotten to me that much. "Why not?" "Because she was basically a stranger." Isabel shook her head. "Strangers can still hit old bruises." That sentence landed hard because it was true. I pushed my glass in a small circle on the table. The worst part was how fast I believed her. Like maybe I really was just the nice, quiet guy women settle near and then leave for someone louder. She did not rush to deny it. She did something better. She thought about it. Then she said, "I think you're wrong about one part." I looked up. "I don't think your problem is that you're quiet," she said. "I think your problem is that you keep measuring yourself against people who only know how to value performance." That shut me up. She went on, calm and direct. "Some people like being impressed. Some people like noise. Some people need a person who enters a room and takes it over. That doesn't make them evil. It just means they are looking for something else. But if you keep taking that as proof that you are lacking, you'll let the wrong people define you." I stared at her. "That was harsh," she said. "It was accurate." She lifted one shoulder. "I'm trying to be less charming and more useful." "You're doing great." That made her laugh, and the sound of it did something dangerous to me. It made this feel easy. After a while I said, "Your turn." Her smile faded, but not all the way. "That seems fair." She broke off a piece of bread and set it down again without eating it. "My ex didn't start out cruel," she said. "That would have been easier. He was organized, ambitious, certain. For a long time, certainty felt like safety." I stayed quiet. He liked plans. He liked results. He liked things that made sense on paper. And slowly, I started trimming away parts of myself that did not fit his idea of useful. Her voice never shook. That somehow made it worse. I stopped taking weekend photos because it was impractical. I stopped cooking long meals because it took too much time. I stopped saying no when he made decisions for both of us because it always turned into a speech about vision and sacrifice. She looked out toward the dark window beside us. "When the marriage ended, I thought I would miss him first. I didn't. I missed myself." That sat between us for a few seconds. Then I said very quietly, "That sounds lonely." It was. She looked back at me then. "That's why I reacted badly in my kitchen," she said. "Because when you answered my father, I heard something real. And real is not the same thing as safe. Real can ask things of you." There it was again, the line neither of us could step around. I nodded once. "I know." We finished dinner slowly after that. Not because we were running out of things to say. The opposite. Every time the conversation turned honest, it opened another door. We talked about books, about my cat, Jasper, and how he had the soul of an angry landlord, About her camera sitting untouched for months after the divorce until one morning she picked it up again and cried so hard she missed the shot she wanted. About why I hiked alone sometimes. About why she liked old city neighborhoods more than new luxury towers. By the time we paid the check, it felt strange that this was only our first real date. Outside, the air was cold enough to wake me up. We walked without deciding to, heading along the water while the city lights shook on the dark surface below. At one point, our hands brushed. Neither of us pulled away fast. Then she stopped walking. "There's something I want to show you," she said. I looked at her. "Now. If that's okay." "Yes." Her apartment was only a short drive away. When we got to her door, she put her key in the lock, then paused and turned to me. "This is not momentum," she said. "I don't want to invite you in just because the night is going well." I held her gaze. "Okay. I'm inviting you in because I want to show you something real. If you'd rather go home, that's okay too." I felt something settle in me then. Respect, relief, want. "I want to come in," I said. She nodded and opened the door. Inside, she did not take me to the couch or pour wine or do any of the things movies train you to expect. She went to a hallway closet, pulled out a flat black case and carried it to the table. When she opened it, I saw photographs, not random snapshots, real work. Mountain ridges at sunrise, rain on old brick. A woman on a bus with tired eyes and one hand against the glass. Little moments I would have walked past without seeing. "These are incredible," I said. She looked at the photos, not at me. "I haven't shown them to anyone in a long time." That felt bigger than the sentence sounded. I moved closer, careful not to touch her. "You should," I said. Her eyes lifted then, and whatever was in them made the room feel suddenly too quiet. For one breath, then another, neither of us moved. I thought she might kiss me. I knew I wanted her to. Instead, she said, almost in a whisper, "If I do this too fast, I won't trust it." I nodded, even though part of me ached. "That's fair." Her hand came up and caught lightly at my sleeve, stopping me before I stepped away. "It isn't a no, Evan," she said. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. "Then what is it?" Her voice was soft, but steady. "It's me asking whether you can want me without rushing me." And standing there in the quiet of her apartment, with her photographs spread between us like proof of the life she was slowly taking back, I realized that was the real question now. Not whether we liked each other, whether we were brave enough to do this without hiding and slow enough not to break it. I looked at her for a long second and said, "Yes." Not because it was the smooth answer, because it was the true one. I could want her without rushing her. I already did. Something in her face eased when I said it, not all the way, just enough to make me understand how much that question had cost her. She walked me to the door a few minutes later. No dramatic pause, no almost kiss, just a quiet stop in the hallway while the city hummed far below us. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not treating slowness like rejection." I held her gaze. "That goes both ways." She nodded once, and I left with the strange feeling that nothing had happened and everything had. The next few weeks moved in small, careful steps. We did not suddenly become one of those couples who blur into each other overnight. We also did not pretend nothing was changing. We found a middle ground that felt awkward at first and then started to feel right. At work, we stayed clean. Meetings were meetings. Messages stayed about work unless one of us had a real reason. Nobody got private smiles in conference rooms. Nobody lingered in hallways. Outside work, we let things unfold. One Saturday morning, I met her at the farmer's market, and we spent an hour arguing over whether peaches should be soft or firm. Another evening, she came to my apartment and stood in my tiny kitchen while Jasper judged her from the counter like she had entered his kingdom without proper notice. "So this is the famous cat," she said. Jasper looked at her hand, looked at her face, then decided she was acceptable and pushed his head into her palm. "You've been chosen," I said. "I feel honored." She laughed, and the sound filled up my small apartment in a way I had not realized it could. She started bringing pieces of herself out where I could see them, not with speeches, in ordinary ways. a camera slung over her shoulder when we walked through old neighborhoods on Sunday mornings. A loaf of bread she baked and then claimed had come out fine, when it was better than anything I had ever made. A text late one evening with a photo of rain on her window and the words, "This looked like something you'd stop for." I started showing her pieces of myself too. The trail maps folded in my desk drawer. The sci-fi novels stacked beside my bed. The way I always made too much coffee on weekends because I liked the smell staying in the apartment longer than the drink itself. None of it felt performative. That was the difference. I was not trying to be interesting for her. She was not trying to be healed for me. About a month in, she brought up work again while we were walking back from dinner. "There's no reporting line between us," she said. "No conflict. But if this becomes a relationship, I want us to handle it cleanly." I smiled at her. "You really do think in policy." "I think in prevention." "That too." She glanced at me. "I'm serious." "I know, and I agree." We decided that if things kept moving, we would disclose it the right way before office gossip got there first. No hiding. No games. The fact that we could talk about that without killing the mood made me trust her more, not less. Then something happened I did not expect. She asked me to look at her photos, not the ones she had shown me the night I went to her apartment after dinner. All of them. Boxes, folders, years of her eye on the world. We spent half a Saturday on her living room floor with prints spread around us. Street corners in the rain. Mountain trails at dawn. Old people talking on park benches. Light on kitchen tiles. Things most people missed because they were too busy calling them ordinary. "These are good," I said for maybe the 10th time. She made a face. "You're biased." "I'm not biased enough to say that about bad work." That earned me a nudge to the shoulder. A neighborhood cafe near her building had put out a call for local artists. Nothing huge, just a small wall show for a month. I told her she should submit a few pieces. She shook her head right away. "No." "Why?" "Because people will look at them." That is usually how photos work. She gave me a flat look, but I could see nerves under it. "What if they're not good enough?" she asked. I looked down at one of her prints, a rainy bus stop glowing gold against a dark street. "Then those people are blind." She laughed, but her hand stayed still on the edge of the photo. I said, more gently, "You don't get to tell me to stop measuring myself against the wrong people and then do the same thing." That did it. She submitted 4 photos. The cafe accepted all 4. The afternoon of the opening, she texted me from work. "Got an email from Graham. I'm fine, just irritated." Graham was her ex-husband. She had said his name only twice around me before that, and both times like it was a file she did not want open on her desk. I wrote back right away. "Do you want to talk?" A minute later, "Not here, tonight." By the time I got to the cafe opening, she was already there, standing near her work in a dark green sweater with her arms folded a little too tight. The photos looked even better on the wall than they had on her floor. People were stopping, studying, pointing, talking to the owner. She should have looked proud. Instead, she looked split in two. I went to her. "What did he say?" She let out a slow breath. "He needed a signature on some old tax document. That part was real." Then he added a paragraph. I waited. He said my mother told him I was seeing someone. He said he was glad I seemed like myself again. I frowned. "That's it. That's enough." I understood then. It was not the message itself. It was what it touched, the old version of her, the one shaped around his approval. The one trained to hear his voice and check herself against it. "Do you want to leave?" I asked. She looked around at her own work on the walls. People were still stopping to admire it. "No," she said. "I'm tired of leaving my own life when he knocks on it." That was the strongest thing I had ever heard her say. So we stayed. Her parents came by later, and Sophia nearly cried in front of the photo of the bus stop. Daniel stood with his hands in his pockets and nodded like a man trying not to make a big display of being proud. I kept my distance enough to let the night be hers. On the walk back to her apartment, she was quiet. At her door, she turned to me and said, "I hate that one email can still do this to me." It doesn't mean he still owns anything. No, she said. But it means I still don't fully trust myself. That hurt to hear because I knew where she was going next. She looked at me, tired and honest. What if I'm doing that with you too? She asked. What if I reach for you because you feel kind and calm and unlike him, and I mistake that for something bigger? The easy answer would have been to tell her not to worry, to say I knew what we had. But easy answers are usually for the person giving them, so I told the truth. Then don't choose me because I'm the opposite of him, I said. And don't choose me because I was there when you were lonely. Choose me only if, when all that noise settles down, you still want me. Her face changed. Not relief, not pain, something deeper, something harder. I stepped back from her door because I meant what I said. And if you can't tell yet, I added, I'd rather wait than be the answer to the wrong question. For 1 second she looked like she might reach for me. She didn't. Instead she whispered, "That's exactly why this is getting dangerous." Then she went inside and closed the door, leaving me alone in the hallway with the one thing I had been trying not to name. I was already in too deep. I did not text her that night. Not because I did not want to, because I had meant what I said. If she chose me, I needed it to be for me. Not because I was gentle after a hard marriage. Not because I was standing close when old feelings got stirred up. Not because I was easy to fall toward. The next 3 days were quiet. At work she was professional, so was I. No coldness, no drama, just space. It was strange how loud space could feel. Tuesday night I came home, fed Jasper and tried to read. I got through the same page 4 times. Wednesday I almost texted her a photo of him sleeping on my laptop, then stopped myself. Thursday she passed me in the hall near the conference rooms and gave me a small nod that could have meant anything. By Friday evening, I had talked myself into 2 opposite ideas at once. 1, I had done the right thing. 2, I had probably ended it before it had a chance to become anything at all. Then a little after 7 my phone buzzed. "Isabel, can you meet me tomorrow morning?" No extra words, no soft lead-in. I stared at it for 1 second, then typed back, "Yes." She sent me a trailhead north of the city. One we had talked about once but never done together. A quiet one, fewer people, more trees than view. Saturday morning was cold and clear. I got there first and stood by my car with 2 coffees growing cooler in my hands. When her car pulled in, she got out wearing hiking boots, a dark jacket, and her camera around her neck. She looked tired, but not confused. That difference mattered. "Hi," she said. "Hi." I handed her one of the coffees. "I guessed your order." She took a sip, then looked at me. "You got it right." We started walking before either of us said anything important. The trail climbed slowly through wet earth and cedar trees. The air smelled clean. Every now and then she lifted her camera and took a shot, not because she was avoiding me, but because that was part of how she moved through the world. I liked that she did not stop being herself in tense moments. I liked that I had started to know what her silence sounded like when it was thoughtful instead of shut down. About halfway up, she stopped beside a fallen log and looked out through a gap in the trees. "I talked to my mother," she said. I waited. She asked me the most annoying question I've ever heard. I smiled a little. "What was it?" "Would you still want him if you had never been married at all?" That question hit me right in the chest. Isabel looked down at her coffee cup, then back at me. I hated her for asking it, she said, which was a sign she had found the right nerve. I stayed quiet. She said, "I've spent so much time trying not to repeat the past that I started treating caution like wisdom every single time. Those are not always the same thing." That sounded like Sophia. Isabel took a slow breath. "So I did something unpleasant. I pictured my life without my ex in it at all. No marriage, no divorce, no damage from him to compare anyone against." Her eyes held mine now. And I asked myself if I would still want to know you, if I would still notice you, if I would still look for your messages, if dinner would still feel shorter than I wanted, if my apartment would still feel better after you left because some part of you stayed in it. My throat went tight. "I kept trying to make the answer more complicated," she said. "It was." I stepped closer, not enough to crowd her, just enough that we no longer had to raise our voices even a little. And I asked. A small smile touched her mouth. Tired, honest, real. And I want you because I want you, she said. Not because you are safe. Not because you are kind after someone unkind. Not because you were there at the right moment. I want you because when I am fully myself, I still move toward you. For a second, I could not speak. Then I said the only thing that felt true enough. Okay. That made her laugh, and there were tears in her eyes at the same time. Okay, she said. I nodded once, my own chest too full for anything polished. Yeah, okay. She set down her coffee on the log and took one step closer. I'm not done, she said softly. Good. Her voice dropped. I'm scared. I know. I'm not scared of you, she said. That's new for me too. I'm scared of needing someone this much and having no guarantee. I let that sit there between us because it deserved room. Then I said, I can't give you a guarantee. I know. But I can give you this, I said. I won't ask you to become smaller to love me. I won't make your life narrower so I feel bigger in it. And if this becomes ours, I'll protect it with you, not from you. Something in her face broke open then, not from sadness, from relief. She reached for my hand first. That mattered too. Her fingers were cold. Mine probably were too. We stood there holding on to each other in the middle of a trail with nobody around and nothing dramatic happening at all. Then she said, very quietly, "Can I kiss you now without either of us pretending it means less than it does?" Yes. This time there was no hesitation hiding inside the moment. Her mouth met mine, warm and certain, and the kiss was not careful because we were afraid. It was careful because we meant it. Her hand came up to my face, and I felt her breathe out against me like she had been carrying something heavy for a long time and had finally set it down. When we pulled back, she stayed close. I'd like to try this, she said. Really try. Slowly if we need to. Honestly, the whole way. I'd like that too. We finished the hike hand in hand whenever the trail allowed it. The weeks after that were not perfect, which is one reason I trusted them. We told HR once we agreed this was real and not passing through. Clean, simple, quiet. No issues, no surprises. At work, we stayed professional because that part still mattered. Outside work, we stopped pretending friendship was a complete word for what this was. She came to my apartment and cooked while Jasper inspected every ingredient like a union supervisor. I went to her place and watched her hang framed prints she had been too nervous to display before. We learned each other's tired moods, good moods, hungry moods, silent moods. We learned how to ask instead of assume. A month later, her parents came to Seattle again. This time, Daniel opened the door, looked at me standing beside Isabel in the kitchen, and said, "So now I can use your real name." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the pasta spoon. Sophia hugged me and whispered, "I knew it." And maybe she had. Maybe the first true thing between us had been visible long before either of us trusted it. The best part was not some huge turning point after that. It was the ordinary life that came next. Her camera by my front door, my books on her table, Jasper sleeping between us on the couch like he had approved the whole arrangement from the start, 2 mugs in the sink, her hand finding mine without thought. For years I had been afraid that love would only come looking for louder men with brighter lives. I was wrong. It came quietly. And when it finally did, it sounded a lot like someone telling the truth and staying.